Hello guys, and welcome to a new GTK scale button tutorial. Today we are going to talk about CSS, so it is CSS time. Before we proceed, let us check what the documentation says about it. So I'm going to click on description, and then we have here CSS nodes. CSS node said GTK scale button has a single CSS node with a name button. To differentiate from for a plain GTK button, it gets the scale style class. Okay, this is a thing which you will see in a moment that something goes wrong here, and we will talk about it in a moment. Okay, so that being said, let us go to our program. I clean it a little bit. So at this point we have only scale button which use an adjustment, but now I'm going to clean this part as well. We are not going to use an adjustment at all. So basically minimal, maximal 5 and 1 step, so we don't need to set any adjustment. Okay, so basically what we have here, we create a window, we create a scale button, I gave it a name, and of course I gave it a request size of 50/50, nothing special, and then I use margins 50. So I'm going to compile it and run it. I did the last two calls just to fit it better in this window, because if you create or use a grid or something, then you will notice that you don't need those. Anyway, here's our window. Here's the button, which you don't see it. Now you see it when I hover over it or when I enter my pointer, and when I click on it, it's coming out our scale. So basically this is what we are going to style today. Okay, so that being said, let us create a file. First one, a CSS file, so empty file. Ask me if I want to add it to our project. Of course I want to, so yes. I give it a name. The name will be style.css. I click on save, and of course multiple selection, I do yes. Okay, at this point the name, I choose it because it is the name which I use it all the time when we are loading our CSS function. Here is the CSS file name. Okay, so that being said, nothing special, no changes here because we did nothing, as you can see, but we are going to set some things here. So the first one will be our window, and of course the background color, which we are going to set. It will be orange. So let me compile it and run it and see if this works. Yeah, it works fine. Okay, next thing, like documentation already says, the GTK scale button has a single CSS node with a name button. So to differentiate it from a plain GTK button, it gets the scale style class. Okay, this is good, but I choose to not use it. I'm using the GTK widget set name now, so I choose the name, my scale button, which I'm going to call it right now. And of course we are going to give it a background color, which will be red, and of course some border. If I don't use border, then let me compile it and run it. As you can see, here is our button. Now looks somehow that there is something there, and you notice it. Okay, so I'm going to use a border as well, which will be I don't know, 2 pixels, solid black. Let me compile it and run it. Okay, I did a mistake. Yes, no comma, don't put commas. Now we have a border. Now looks better. Okay, now what we can change, let us set the hover. I'm going to copy this part right here, and I'm going to drop it here, and I will let the solid part, and I just change it to green. Let me compile it and run it. Oh, okay. Hover. This is very important. And now works fine. Yes, as you can see, it works. The color is changing, so basically we did everything fine. Now, what's the story now with this one right here? How would you access it? Well, here is the problem. I found it and I reported today. But before we go there, let us concentrate us about what we can do from the documentation. Okay, so we go back to our CSS node. It says GTK-ScaleButton has a single CSS node with name button. The difference from the plain GTK button, it gets the scale style. Of course, we can use the scale style. Okay, so now I'm going to use background color, let's call it magenta, and bam, we have nothing here. So basically it's not working the way you thought it's working. Anyway, it is working, but not the way you think. I'm going to click on GTK button. Now we go to its description, and here we have CSS nodes, and says the GTK button has a single CSS node with the name button. We already know that. And then says the node will get the style classes, image button or text button, if the content is just an image or label, respectively. It may also receive the flat style class. So in other words, we can see here that there are things which we can set, like flat and image button. Why? Because basically it has to do with those two, with this one and this one right here. We are coming that part, but there is something important which we need to make it clear, and this means once that you click here, you basically now you are on a scale. This one, it is just a scale, it's not special, it's a scale. So you can of course go for it and do something like this: scale background color magenta, and you see you have a background color. The same thing goes for slider. If you maybe want to change the slider to, let's say, red, and put a color of yellow, let us see what changes we did now. And as you can see, our scale got a background color, and of course its slider, which is red, this dot right here which I'm playing with, and works fine. But how would you manage this kind of situation if, and I repeat, if you have a scale in your program which doesn't which has nothing to do with your widget? I mean, you have a scale for something and you have a scale button for something else. Definitely, yes, it will be a big problem, because by changing basically something to a scale, it happens to all kind of scales you have in your program. So this is the problem here. This is the thing which I didn't find out. I took I don't know, maybe yesterday and today I tried to understand and find a way. So I read everything about CSS and its documentation. I mean the GTK CSS documentation, not that you understand the whole CSS, only which applies to to GTK. And after I noticed that it is impossible to me to find a way to set these things right here, I had to ask. So I'm going now here. I went to discourse.gnome.org and I put this question: how to access the scale of the GTK scale button. So basically, as you can see here in this picture, because I don't have now the program, but you can take it yourself if you go to their website. You see the code is right here and the CSS and everything. So basically I was asking, let me go here. After I read everything what I found about CSS on its documentation, I realized that I still cannot figure out how to access the scale of a scale button. So I gave them a demo where I had the scale and scale button, and of course I set those names through GTK widget set name with no succeed. So here's the picture. Basically you see I was setting the scale and both of them got the same color: background black, background black, slider red, and of course the highlights and so on. So this is basically a thing which I couldn't find an answer. Of course I got something. I got from someone which came very fast and says it's not documented anywhere, but this works. And he said scale and pop-up scale. You see, scale, pop-up, and then scale. So basically this is the real class which we needed to access our scale, and not the scale class itself. So basically I did what he did. And anyway, he suggested to use the inspector. At that point I couldn't use it. I hate anyway the inspector, because to be clear, I need to follow the standard. So this means I need to know that it works not just on one particular operating system or something like that. It should be independent. So this means it should be a GTK thing. So of course I said thank you. At this moment I cannot use the inspector or whatever. And here's the part. But I will very happy to know if this is the right way or not before I go with it. So basically even now I'm still not sure. But later the boss Emmanuel found it and said he opened a merge request for this. So basically if you go there you can see that he was asking about fixing these stuffs. Document the CSS class used for the scale button pop over, because otherwise it's not easy to divide the selector for the scale widget inside of whatever. Anyway guys, no, it's enough with this theory now, because you know how it's working, and what you should know is how to do it until it will be 100% sure. Just stick with it. And that being said, just stick with scale pop up. So basically this is what we are going to do today as well. I'm going to copy this one right here just to see that it's working. So let me close the program. We don't need anymore that website, and I'm going to change basically scale with scale pop up and then scale. Okay, so and here also scale pop up, scale slider. I'm going to compile it and run it, and as you can see it works fine. Our background is changed, and of course our slider as well, or slider, or the pointer, which the button which let you to adjust the scale. So that being said, it's enough for today. For this video I'm going to make another video, a second video about CSS to can style the whole GTK scale button. Thank you guys for watching. If you like it, please subscribe, share with your friends and neighbors, and until next time, see you guys.